Salvete discipuli, hodie spectatis lecturam vicesimam capitis viginti. The fourth declension, ablative of place from which and separation. Hodie discemus primum vocabula capitis viginti, deinde grammaticam. Fourth declension nouns, ablative of place from which, and ablative of separation. Primum discemus verba vocabulorum capitis viginti. In hoc capite sunt sex verba: careo, defendo, discedo, odi, prohibeo, pronuntio. Primum verbum: careo, carere, carui, cariturum. Cibus quem femina edit, sale caret. Salem igitor super cibum fundit. Quid significat careo? Ecce cibus, ecce sal, ecce femina. Cibus quem femina dedit, sale caret. Proximum verbum: defendo, defendere, defendi, defensum. Trecentum Spartiatae Graeciam ab hostibus persicis 3 dies defenderunt, sed die tertio victi sunt. Quid significat defendo? Proximum verbum: discedo, discedere, discessi, discessum. Nunc discedite, ne vos iterum irideam, exclamat Franco Gallicus. Quid significat discedo? Proximum verbum: odi, odisse, ossum. Me odisse possunt, si me quoque timent, dicebat Caligula imperator. Quid significat odi? Proximum verbum: prohibeo, prohibere, prohibui, prohibitum. Tegumen orale, morbos a te saepe prohibebat. Quid significat prohibeo? Ecce tegumen orale. Tegumen orale, tegumina oralia, morbos a te, a vos, saepe prohibebit. Ultimum verbum: pronuntio, pronuntiare, pronuntiavi, pronuntiatum. Pericles, dux ille Atheniensis, super eos qui in bello necati erant, orationem funeralem pronuntiavit. Quid significat pronuntio? Nunc discemus nomina vocabulorum capitis viginti. In hoc capite sunt multa nomina, sunt 12 nomina: coniurati, cornu, fructus, genu, manus, metus, mons, senatus, sensus, servitus, spiritus, versus. Proximum nomen: coniurati, coniuratorum. Sexaginta e senatu erat numerus coniuratorum, quorum concilio Julius Caesar necatus est. Et tu, Bruta? Quid significat coniurati? Quid significant coniurati? Mea culpa. Proximum nomen: cornu, cornus. Unicornus est equus in fabulis, cuius capiti unum cornu est. Omnia in nomine sunt. Ecce unicornus ecce cornu in capite unicorni. Quid significat cornu? Est nomen quartae declensionis. Proximum nomen. Nomen quartae declensionis. Fructus, fructus. Agricolis fructus laborum sunt cibus. Ceteris hominum fructus laborum saepe est pecunia. Quid significat fructus? Proximum nomen. Genu, genus. Potestisne duos vultus humanos in his genibus videre. Quid significat genu? Ecce genu, ecce duo genua humana. Proximum nomen. Manus, manus. Dic manibus, quoniam vultus non audit. Quid significat manus? Ecce manus, ecce duo manus humanae. Quid significat manus? Proximum nomen. Metus, metus. Multi homines metum aranearum habent, qui Graece arachnophobia vocatur. Quid significat metus? Proximum nomen. Mons, montes. In planeta Marte Olympus est mons ingens, cuius nomen a domo deorum in fabulis trahitur. Quid significat mons? Ecce Olympus mons in planeta Marte. Proximum nomen. Senatus, senatus. Sexaginta e senatu erat numerus conjuratorum, quorum consilio Iulius Caesar necatus est. Quid significat senatus? Proximum nomen. Sensus, sensus. Homines quinque sensibus sentiunt. Videre, audire, olefacere, tangere, gustare. Quid significat sensus? Proximum nomen. Servitus, servitutis. Nulli homines esse servidebent, et omnes servituta liberari debent. Quid significat servitus? Proximum nomen. Spiritus, spiritus. Quanto temporis spiritum sub aqua tenere potes? Quid significat spiritus? Ultimum nomen. Versus, versus. Haecu est carmen Japonicum, quod e tribus versibus componitur, et cuius versus primus tertiusque quinque secundus septem syllabas habet. Quid significat versus? Nunc discemus adjectiva vocabulorum capitis viginti. In hoc capite sunt tria adjectiva: communis, dexter, sinister. Primum adjectivum. Communis, commune. Ea quae communia sunt parvam aestimationem habere possunt. Scripsit Fredericus Nietzsche. Nos similes Federico esse non debemus. Quid significat communis? Proximum et ultimum adjectiva. Dexter, dextra, dextrum, et sinister, sinistra, sinistrum. Etiam nunc optometristae partem praescriptionum Latine scribunt, in quibus literae OD et OS oculum dextrum sinistrumque significant. Quid significant dexter et sinister? Okay, so today we finally learned the next declension of nouns. So far we've learned the first through third declension, and now today we'll learn the fourth, and next semester, early next semester, we'll learn the fifth. Okay, there are 5 declensions total. So like the third declension, the fourth declension has nouns in all 3 genders, and here are some examples of them. So like the third declension, masculine and feminine nouns of the fourth declension have identical case endings. Okay, so when you memorize it, you just have to learn the gender with it. So I have here an example of a feminine noun, manus, manus, which means hand. Okay, but there are masculine nouns that have the same set of endings. Okay. And so if you associate the first declension with the letter A, the second declension with the letter O, the third declension with the letter I, well, the fourth declension you certainly associate with the letter U, as you see the letter U repeated throughout. Okay. The trick with the fourth declension is you really have to pay attention to long marks, because in order to identify a fourth declension noun from the dictionary entry, you have to pay attention, of course, to the nominative and genitive singular here, which is manus, manus. Okay, and so notice that the difference between the nominative and the genitive is just the lengthening of the vowel of the U in the case ending of the genitive singular. So manus, manus. Okay, and then from there, you'll notice that it declines in ways that should look familiar. Okay, so for example, manui, okay, the dative, to or for the hand, it has that long I, just like we do in the third declension. And then the accusative manum, okay, has the M at the end. We associate that with the accusative singular, okay, in the prior 3 declensions. And then the ablative manu, okay, just the long U, we're used to having just that long vowel or single vowel as the ablative singular ending. And like the third declension, fourth declension nouns, the vocative always is the same as the nominative. Okay, so manus, manus, manui, manum, manu, manus. Okay, let's look at the feminine, and which is also the masculine plural. And you'll notice that the nominative plural is manus, so it's another long US. So another situation where you'll have to use context to figure out whether you have a genitive singular or a nominative plural. Genitive plural of the hands, manuum. Okay, so remember that all genitive singulars, regardless of declension, have that um at the end, but there's usually something before the um. In this case, it's a u instead of, say, an I or an or. Okay. Then the dative plural, to or for the hands, manibus. Okay, we've seen that ibus ending for the dative plural in the third declension. Okay, so it repeats in the fourth declension, and therefore also in the ablative plural, because the rule is that the dative plural and ablative plural always are identical in form. The accusative plural is manus, okay, which is the same as the nominative plural. So it does the same thing that the third declension does, where the nominative and accusative plural are the same. And therefore, of course, the vocative plural is the same, because the vocative plural is always the same as the nominative plural in any declension. Okay? Let's look at the neuter. The neuter is weird. Okay? The neuter is very weird, and it's confusing and upsetting, potentially. Because let's take the word genu, genus, okay, which means knee. So the neuter singular, or sorry, the nominative singular is a long U, but it's not ablative. But it could be, right? So basically, it almost doesn't decline in the singular except for the genitive um, singular here, so that you can identify it as a fourth declension. Okay, so it's genu, genus, genu, 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 genu. Okay, which of course is easy to decline, but if you see it in a sentence, you're going to have to use some context to figure out what case it actually is. If you look at the neuter plural, okay, then it does decline, and again, declines in ways that you would expect neuters to decline. Okay, like any neuter in any declension, right? The nominative and therefore accusative and vocative will end in a short a, so a ua. So genua, knees. Otherwise, just like neuters in other declensions, right? The genitive, dative, and ablative plural will be the same as the masculine and feminine equivalent in that declension. Okay, so there you have it. So as we've been doing the past few chapters, we are adding even more uses of the ablative to our toolkit here, to the so-called Swiss Army knife of cases. So now, today we're learning the ablative of separation, the ablative of place from which. Okay, so the ablative of separation probably makes sense as ablative because the ablative tends to denote things motion away from something. And so separation, of course, involves something going away from something. Okay? So the ablative of separation is when the word in the ablative designates the thing from which something is separated. Okay? So when you see an ablative of separation, you can translate it as from or away from, depending on the context. Okay? The ablative separation sometimes uses a or ab, meaning from or away from, but there are certain verbs in which the preposition isn't used. And I'll show you which ones, at least that you'll need to know for this chapter. Okay? So let's look at three different examples of ablatives of separation. Okay? So the first one, the first sentence is omnes servituta liberabimur. Okay? And that means we will all be freed from slavery. Okay? Now, you see that servituta is in the ablative here, servitus, servitutis, third declension. And it means from slavery, away from slavery, separated away from slavery. Okay? Liberare is a verb in which you often use an ablative of separation because you want to designate the thing you're being freed or liberated from. Okay, and it's an example of a verb that does not use a preposition, okay, to indicate that. So whenever you see the verb liberare, okay, expect you'll often see a ablative of separation without the a or ab to designate the thing you're being freed from. Okay. Next example. Duces nostri sapientia carent. Okay, and this means our generals, our leaders, lack wisdom. Okay, so careo is a verb that is technically intransitive, and it means to lack, or literally to be without. And it's not transitive, so technically it takes the ablative, or it's used with an ablative of separation. Okay, so it doesn't take an accusative to mean the thing you're lacking. It means to be without, so to be without wisdom or to lack. Okay, so if you see careo, okay, treat it as taking the ablative, if you will. Okay. Finally, we have plenty of ablatives of separation where we do have the a or ab preposition, and prohibeo and defendo are examples of verbs in this chapter that take that. So prohibete hostes aportis orbis. Okay, so keep the enemy away from the city's gates. Okay, so if you see prohibeo or defendo, okay, meaning to keep away, to defend from, right? So you keep an accusative away from the ablative of separation, okay, with the a or ab. Okay? All right. Similarly, to separation, we have the ablative of place from which. And this basically puts a word in the ablative, and it designates the place, the spot, the location away from which something moves. So the ablative place from which will be different from the ablative separation because you're using a verb of motion, because you're literally going away from something and you're talking about, well, where are you going away from? Okay. And again, you can translate it as from or away from. And the prepositions used with this are any preposition that can designate motion away from. A or ab, meaning from or away from. De, meaning down from. Or a or x, meaning out of. Okay, or just from, right? So let's look at a few examples. Coniurati a borba fugiebant. Okay, so the conspirators were fleeing from the city. Okay, or fleeing away from the city. Okay, so fugio, verb of motion, to flee, to escape. Okay, and then the city is the thing that they're fleeing from. Okay, so we have ab plus orba. Next, we have Hannibal cum elephantis de Alpibus venit. Okay, so Hannibal came down from the Alps with elephants. Okay, so here's a verb of motion, when it. Hannibal came. And de, meaning away from, in the Alps. So de Alpibus, down from the Alps with the elephants. Okay. Finally, we have mortui e sepulcri surgent. Okay, this literally means the dead will rise from their graves. Okay, so a nice old zombie apocalypse. Okay, so surgo, okay, surgent is a verb of motion. Okay, and so we have a or x designating motion out of, okay, the graves, the tombs, the sepulchres. Okay. Something I didn't mention here is that, and we've mentioned it before, but some proper names of like cities like Rome, okay, or Carthage, right? When you have an ablative place from which you may not have a preposition at all, okay. So just watch out for that. I'll point it out when we get to it. All right, that's it. Thanks for thanks for a great semester, and if this is as far as you go, if not, your next lesson will be next month. Okay, salve, valete discipuli.